This is episode 489 on the 2nd of March 2022 as the road to the 500 episode begins this morning. But before that, we have a very interesting topic that we can discuss, and a topic which has been a part of human discussion forever. Ever since humans thought themselves to be intellectual, thought themselves to be civilized, they think that this particular asset is something they need to have. They need to have a daily habit. What defines a good habit? What is a not so good habit? And what is habit in general? Well, if the American Journal of Psychology is to go by, habit from the standpoint of psychology as a more or less fixed way of thinking, willing, or feeling acquired through previous repetition of a mental experience. That is, doing the same thing again and again. But we cannot put them into silos. What's a good habit, what's a bad habit is as per what civilization wants. An individual's good habit may become obsession later on. Bad habit could become a good habit later on, depending on what we look at in the whole idea of habit. But what are some of the stereotyped good habits which are accepted world over? It doesn't matter whether you are in the western part of the world, the eastern part of the world, whether you are in the subcontinent or in the Americas, Asias, Russia, Eurasia, Antarctica, Australia, Africa, there are some habits which are acceptable or which are deemed to be there, which if you're a part of civilization, you are supposed to have these habits. You're supposed to do these things again and again. One of them is healthy food. So I question this, what is healthy food? Because for every part of the world, healthy food is different. If for the subcontinent part of the world, things like paratha is a healthy food, we may think that paratha may not work in another part of the world because it's oily. On the other hand, if pizza and burger are acceptable in another part of the world, we may think pizza and burger have too much of carbohydrates, too much of calorie. Everyone loves using the word calorie. And what should be the calorie of an individual? How much we should eat, how much we should not eat. Then there's exercise. What defines exercise? Exercise is the stimulation of the body and the mind together. Of course, you can add a certain ancient practice or maybe not an ancient practice or something like that. Exercise can be doing a lot of activities which for certain parts may be acceptable, for certain parts may not be acceptable. But if we don't go into details, exercise is good for everyone. And then early sleep and wise. But what is the exact time for early sleep and wise? Because every time there's a new study saying that if we sleep too early, it will have a negative impact on our health. That is, if I sleep at 10:30, I do sleep around 10:30 sometimes. Sometimes it goes late, but on an average, if I or anyone sleep around 10:30 and they get up around 6 a.m., that's perfect. But for some others, depending on the nature of the work they're engaged in, they may sleep at 2 a.m. in the morning and they may get up at 11 a.m. And when it comes to these three things, it also means having your meals at the right time. But then some may say that, are we following the Western side of things like breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Do we need to have breakfast at 8 a.m.? Do we need to have lunch at 1 p.m.? Do we need to have dinner at 8 p.m.? Because people say that I am so busy in my work that I forget about things like food and lunch and dinner, but that's just an excuse. And I'm not going into those discussion because it doesn't make sense. And then the most important thing is to be analog once in a while. That is disconnecting yourself from the internet. It may be a paradox and an irony because if you have to listen to this program, you need the internet. But then that's the thing. When you have to listen to the program, connect to the internet, and when you have finished listening to this program, just disconnect yourself from the internet. Go analog after you have finished listening to this program. And then something which I would want to do, but it's complicated, uninstalling all applications from the electronic devices. It's a little tricky because every time you have to install and uninstall, the electronic device may or may not permit that same application to be installed. If I uninstall this piece of headache called WhatsApp from my electronic device, that is phone and my computer, and if I want to install it again, it won't be as straightforward as opening or closing a lock. The phone's system may interfere, or it may not download from where we have to download from the Play Store or the App Store or wherever you have to download. Uninstalling may not work all the time, but what will work is muting all notifications. That can work because half the time the discussion on such platforms is, well, there is no discussion. It's better to stay away from that and don't believe everything that is being said on this platform. Use this platform for a specific purpose. That's what I do. There is no use engaging in conversation because if I have to engage in conversations, I'll meet the person face to face and engage in a healthy conversation. Whatever be the advantages of the online world, it doesn't bother me. The more I stay away, the better it is. It is a paradox because this entire program is based on the online world. But that's what I said. Listen to this program and then disconnect from the internet and then go analog and mute your notification. And then staying away from inferior and substandard products, that is pseudo media. I stay away from pseudo media. I don't get affected by rumor, and even when I read an article about a certain subject, which whether it's false or true or somewhere in the middle, whether an information is misinformation or whether something is true, false, whether the facts are what they are supposed to be, we have to use our own intellect. We don't need to use any kind of truth meter because if I read an article, fine, somebody has researched, done their homework, written the article, fine, you respect them for that. Whether it's true, whether there's a motive behind it, well, there's a motive behind everything we do. So let's not get into that debate. But staying away from inferior and substandard products, pseudo media. Of course, you need this pseudo media to get information through. Well, you can get information through all kinds of situations. I don't need to be looking at, I have no interest in individuals who think they are popular, engaging in discussions or pretending to argue over things they are concerned about because, as I said, certain celebrities don't care about anything. The only thing they care about is putting themselves on a pedestal, and if they have to pretend to argue or be concerned about certain subjects, they'll do it. And a good habit is not spreading rumors and misinformation. Well, let me tell you, even before pseudo media came into effect 20 years ago, and whatever kind of information was there in the pre-pseudo media era, rumors and misinformation are part of human existence. It's up to those to filter that information, whether it's rumor or not. Our mind can process. Of course, we should not spread rumors and misinformation, but You are in a world where everything comes with a cost. You may have to look at rumors and misinformation as the best thing one can do. Not spreading is a good idea, but it doesn't work always. So these are some of the good habits which are not limited to one region, one culture, one part of the world, language, whatever be it. Healthy food, everyone wants to do it. Exercise, yes. Early sleep advice, yes. Disconnecting from the internet ever since internet became a part of the human existence 3 decades ago, yes. Muting your notifications, I don't need people to tell me to mute notifications. I know I have to mute notifications. My text messages, my pseudo text messages, call notifications, they're all on mute. Because if you want to text me, go ahead and text me. But I know people don't have time to text, so I don't bother. Then staying away from inferior and substandard products like pseudo media, not spreading rumors and misinformation, that's important. And then play hard and work harder, or work hard or play harder, whatever suits you. What are some of the quick no-nos? Being on fantasy and gambling applications. So there are a lot of advertisements regarding gambling applications where they coax you to make your playing 11 for a certain sport and then wait for the fact that will the ambassador of that particular product who makes his or her team, will it match with my team? Because you hear that notification, it's subject to financial risk. Please read all documents, or please be careful before using such applications. As I said, if somebody asks me what should be the playing 11, whether it's a football match, hockey match, whatever be the match, I don't need to use such applications to do it. I don't go into that thing. I've never used them and never been tempted by them. And I'm not so greedy that, okay, if I do it, I may win. Well, it's a gamble. These applications, are they skill? Well, skill comes from experience. Having seen how a certain team is selected by the team management, whether it's cricket, hockey, football, or whatever be the team. But these are fantasy. They call it fantasy because it's not reality. But what's fantasy and what's reality today? Well, there's no bigger fantasy than pseudo media, and these are pseudo media. And then the most strict no-no is junk food. So as I said, everyone wants to have healthy food. Nobody wants to have unhealthy food. But what defines healthy, unhealthy? Junk food for one region could be an emotional meal for another region. Because if I say that pizza versus dosa or chole bhature versus any other product, people will, of course, the regional emotional part will always be a factor. So junk food, well, when it comes to calories and carbohydrate and the obsession with organic foods and the obsession with plant-based foods, and of course the whole obsession with environment and sustainability, I don't know where has this come from. It's nothing more than a gimmick. This concern for the environment is nothing more than a gimmick, because people have nothing more to do, so they come up with this concern about environment as if they were sleeping all these years ago, and suddenly in the last 5 years we are trying to prove that yes, we can save whatever is, we can salvage and save whatever is left in the environment for future generations. I don't think there will be a future generation. I don't think I need a future generation to come. Because if you won't talk about environment impact, there is no bigger impact than using your computer. Food doesn't, our consumption of food doesn't have an impact as much as usage of your electronic devices. Of course, extreme weather events, extreme cold events, extreme hot events. I am not getting into that because this whole concern is nothing more than a gimmick, a charade, a drama, theatric, and I don't get affected. Yes, environment is important, but all the discussion around it is nothing more than a paid discussion. It's not even real. So I don't even get affected by it. Do what you want, eat what you want. If there are limited resources, the world always had limited resources. Nothing is unlimited. Things will go once they have to go. Nothing in this world is unlimited. There will be a full stop. Why worry? Yes, environment is important. You never know what will be left. Of course, the whole plastic concern. Well, we'll discuss that on a later date. But yes, junk food may be a strict no-no. Fantasy gambling applications, I leave it to the discretion of the August audience. But for me, it's a strict no-no in the sense that I'm not affected by its usage. But moving on, I am astounded by the lack of uniformity when it comes to allowing crowds in stadiums. Some states allow while others play to empty galleries, which shows a disoriented mindset. Of course, they've allowed crowds for the match on Friday. What match is that? I'll discuss as time comes. They allowed it at the last minute because of an individual who's reaching a milestone mark of a certain number of matches, and it's a big deal because that's how things are. But then that's the interesting part. You you were so disoriented, you were so confused till a certain while you said no, we won't allow crowd, we'll play to empty galleries, and then suddenly you say we'll allow crowds up to 50%. That just shows the disoriented and the medieval mindset of the organizers. It just shows the flip-flop nature. They can't decide, and that's something which I'm not impressed with. I'm not even impressed with them allowing crowds. 50% doesn't work. Either make it zero or either make it full capacity, packed to the rafters, and then we all know the quality of Indian stadiums, the headache that comes, the headache that is when you have to go to an Indian stadium or to go through so many checks. You have to park your car millions of kilometers away. That's why I'm never going to a stadium, not because I don't want to, but because by the time I reach the stadium, I'll be exhausted. I won't be able to enjoy the match. And if a match which starts at 10 a.m., I will have to start from my place at 5 a.m. because it will take me 2 hours to reach the venue and then another 3 hours to go through that crowd of individuals, then the security check, then the parking will be far away. It will take at least 2.5 hours to get from the parking spot till the stadium, then another 1 hour to get inside, and then the lack of infrastructure, the poor quality infrastructure that is there, and then the lack of directions by the authorities that where can you park your car, is there any transport available which one can take from the car park till the stadium. There is no coordination. So I don't want to even think. I don't know what happens in other parts of the world, but in India, it's a headache. Those who go, good luck to them. But while they allow 50% crowds, what about the Hockey Pro League Championship? It's made to empty galleries. Hockey as a sport needs its crowd more than any other sport. In fact, there is no uniformity. There should be one uniform decision that either we allow crowd for all sports or we allow for none. Let's not put one sport on a pedestal and other one make it down. So there has to be coordination between the governing bodies and the states which allow or don't allow, because this is just double standards and it's not impressive. And that's the way I look at such things. But the India-Sri Lanka Test Championship Game 1 begins this Friday. And of course, it's important because it's the 100th match of a certain player. And everyone is excited. 12 points are at stake in this particular match. A lot of things can happen. So what will be the playing 11. As I said, I don't need these fantasy gambling apps to tell what should be my team, because what happens? Even if I do, it won't be always that the team will match, and I don't need the teams to match, because what, even if my team doesn't match with the decision of the team management, it's fine. But it's my job to select a team, because everyone has to know and everyone can select, and this is my team for tomorrow. We'll discuss why certain individuals and why not certain individuals. It's just like a chess game. Who will be there, who won't be there, it just happens by chance. You don't need to use your intellect too much. And that's what it will be. Of course, everyone is excited about the 100th match of that player, and there'll be felicitation and everything. But that's the way things are, and it will be a very interesting story. But what will be my team 11? Let's take a look. So for me, of course, the expected openers are going to be Rohit and Agarwal, but I will open with Rohit and Shubman Gill, which means I'm going to do something which has never happened before, with two icons and legends being literally kicked out of the team for whatever reasons, because the closest who would have come to playing 100 matches was a legend in Pujara, irrespective of the fact that whether he made once, whether he made zero in his last 20 matches, he was the closest. I would put Kohli at 3. I don't care, because for me, that's not a bad thing to do. Kohli at 3 and Bihari at 4, Shreyas at 5 and Pant at 6. So 3, 4, 5, 6, you have some experience and some new. None of these 11 players are new blood. They have played enough matches. They have played enough matches, whatever be the format, to make their presence felt. So they're not exactly new. None of the 11 and the people waiting in the wings are exactly new. Nobody is making their debut. One player is playing his 100th match, and the youngest could be Shreyas Iyer playing his third match. So that's the only difference. The others, on an average, have played over 30 matches. Of course, Pant has played around 30 matches, Shami over 50, Siraj over 15, Bumrah close to 30, Ashwin close to 80, Jadeja close to 60 matches, Rohit Sharma close to 50 matches, Gill close to 12, 13 matches. So they have played enough. Of course, they have been plagued by injuries, but they have played enough. So this is my team, and it's a perfect team. And then, contrary to expectation, where they go with 3 spinners and 2 fast bowlers, since we don't have a third spinner with Akshar Patel and Washington Sundar injured in this context, I'll go with what is the best available on the field. Jadeja and Ashwin as the spinners. We don't have a sixth guy. We don't have an all-rounder apart from Jadeja and Ashwin. It's a shame that a certain individual has not been given a chance, but that's the nature of the beast, and that's what we have to accept. If I had a call, I would have opened with Kohli. As I said, it doesn't matter. The red ball, white ball, it's all part of the mind. These things are just in the mind. But for me, these are the best 11. Of course, those who miss out, we can say they missed out. Umesh Yadav misses out, or a Jayant Yadav misses out, or a Saurabh Kumar misses out, or a Mayank Agarwal misses out. When you only have a 2 test match tournament, which is absolute nonsense. You only have 2 matches. There is no uniformity in the number of matches 2 teams play. Then this is the best team that can be put in the park. Of course, if they're injured, there's always Agarwal and other players to come and take over. But Bumrah, Shami, Siraj, good fast bowlers, swing bowlers, good speed of 140 plus. Jadeja, Ashwin, 2 very good spinners, and there is no 6th option unless Rohan Campbell's with somebody doing a job. I don't know what he will have in mind. Don't be surprised if he goes with 2 fast bowlers and 2 spinners and an extra batter. That could happen, but that's a gamble you have to take. So this is my team. It may not fit what the coach and the captain and the people on the ground have in mind, but since everyone picked up their fantasy 11, this is not the fantasy 11, this is the real 11. That's my team, and when I say so, nobody can argue. So this ends episode number 489 on the 2nd of March 2022, and from this point onward begins the road to the 500 episodes. Enjoy the next 10 episodes. And with this, the countdown to the 500 episode begins, and that will start this Friday, the 4th of March 2022, with episode number 490. So stay tuned for the next 10 episodes. The countdown begins, and the road to the 500 episode begins this Friday. But what should you do while you wait for the episode on Friday? Put these legendary books, put these must-read books, put these books once in a lifetime literature in your must-read book column. Once again, put these legendary books, put these once in a lifetime literature in your must-read books column.